Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Legion Season 2, Episode 3. It is called Chapter 11, so full spoilers for the episode. And my only worry when I'm saying the title of these is that I might mix up the numbers a little bit.
You said that last time as well.
Did I? Did I say that last
Yeah.
time? Or did I just screw up the numbers? I can't remember.
No, you just said the same thing last time.
Alright. Well, convenient how all of a sudden you actually pay attention during the intro.
Well, no, because I made a comment last week about how, it's just because it's the chapters that keep running on, so you might, get the
Okay.
wrong one.
Alright, well, apparently I'm in a mind loop then, and I'll keep repeating that. That'll be the gag now for the rest of the season. I'll
Yeah,
say that
every episode.
every episode. So, this one actually started with the Jon Hamm narrated infomercial.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was a thematic reason to put it at the start this time, or was it simply there was no like neat place in the middle? They wanted to break it up. They wanted it to be continuous. Well, was it the other story? Was it the main story of the episode they wanted to be unbroken, or was there a reason specifically? No, we want that to be at the start.
Yeah, the obvious reason for it to be at the start is they want this in your mind the whole episode, so you're
Yeah.
wondering what it is about.
Yeah, I mean that said, there's some obvious things here. I think you can't not think of the teeth chattering epidemic
course,
that's
yeah.
happening because they're talking about how what was it? So you've heard of course, a placebo effect. What about a nocebo effect?
Yeah.
Which is just the opposite, where you're told, oh, there may be a negative outcome, a physical defect associated with this. The example they give is oh, this medicine will make you throw up, but it's just sugar water.
Yeah.
So the guy throws up, and we see this group of teenagers all starting to get this weird tick, just because one person has a stressful home life, and then it kind of like ripples out from
Spirals
there.
out, yeah.
Yeah. So on the surface, it's a very obvious one because it does feel okay, right? So we're explaining the teeth chattering, but
It's too easy, isn't it?
it's a little too easy, and I think it, as a whole, it is still just explaining that. I think the part that's got a little bit more going on is towards the start of it, and arguably when he brings it back round at the end, and he's talking about, we manifest our own physical reality based on what we think.
Mm.
So the idea again of making something not being real, but it becoming real because we believe it.
Yeah,
I think that's the important part thematically to take from this.
I agree.
So, I mean, what what that means in the context of the
It's
episode?
making me go, okay, what's not real? What have they convinced themselves is real?
Giant green hands.
I mean, yeah,
Did you notice them this week?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, of course you did. I'd have been shocked if you didn't after I mentioned them last time.
Yeah. On the lookout now.
Yeah. As soon as we went up to the roof, I'm like, oh, his hand's still there. The hand's still there, and sure enough, yeah. Interesting. The first one, it was kind of off. It wasn't until David walked to the edge that it was clearly pointing to him. But I noticed that when I went to the side shot, when he stepped back, there was like an arrow, not an arrow, sorry, a hand on each side, both pointing. It was almost like a fork, where it was like left and right. Which way is he going to go? Which is a weird place to have it because it's a roof. So one way is just off the roof to death, and the other way is back inside. But of course, he goes to Sid, who he finds because. So what happens in this episode? Is the monk goes rogue. The monk who was in the chattering teeth room wakes up, seemingly violently hurts someone, and they don't know where he is. So David's trying to find him. He can't. So he goes into the chamber to try and talk to Farouk again and figure out what's going on. And when he comes back, everyone in the building almost is chattering. Everyone's been infected. So
Yeah.
he has to go around and sort of reclaim various team members from their own psyche.
Because as we learn, it's actually the monk that's causing the chattering,
Yes.
not Farouk. So, that's a little twist. And Farouk just happened to be following the monk, trying to catch him.
Well, that's actually because obviously the scene with Farouk, where David goes to see him, he obviously Lenny's there. There's again a little bit of that sadness where Lenny clearly just wants to escape, and she's kind of begging David for help, and it's kind of sad and pathetic, and you're like, oh man. But he starts talking to Farouk, and Farouk he's like, so what are you going to do if I help you get your body back? What happens? He's like, I'll go back to where I was.
He says, I live.
Yeah, I live. I'll be rich. I'll be powerful, and I'll drink all day. Like I'll just do what I want, basically. It's but that's it. You're not going to try and take over the world or any other like villainous plans. And that's when he tells him the story about how he was just kind of doing his own thing in his own country for a long time. And it was Xavier who came in. I mean, obviously never named him. It was just your father. That's what it is in this show. As your father came in You know, the white man cometh, essentially is how he puts it, and just kind of interferes, doesn't understand. And obviously, I think we assume there's some, not necessarily lies here, but his interpretation of what he was doing not being wrong is probably not entirely accurate. I have to imagine Xavier looked at this and said, hey, he's controlling his entire country telepathically, this is wrong. But from Varuk's point of view, yeah, but they were prospering, they were all doing really well because I was keeping them all in line.
Pretty much. It's, you know, no one's the villain of their own story. And he obviously just thought he was doing his own thing. And
he gets really upset when he's called a villain. He's like, he's really not happy about that. Because it's actually one of my favourite moments of the episode, right at the start, after the infomercial. We see when he actually gets taken from his body, and they show it because he's just there. He's with some people at a dinner table, but in his sunglasses, you see the reflection. It's the battle, the way it was shown to us last season in the blackboard with the telepathic battle. So the implication being that he's actually battling Xavier at that moment in time, and then he loses, and that's when he slumps forward, and then he's taken to the monks. I thought, oh, that's a really cool little way of showing us that's happening. We never actually have to see Xavier doing anything, or
no, Xavier's the other side of the world for all we care.
Yeah, it's all just in their heads. So I thought that was a really neat way of showing that, and just some cool visuals to bring back. But so the bulk of the episode is so he's with Sid at first, and they're trying to figure things out. She is trying to help future Sid, and she's in the cat, and I thought that was a fun little sequence with the POV in the cat, and I like that she's in the cat, but David's communicating with her telepathically, so he's kind of just like talking to her, and they're like, hey, was the future me prettier than me? And he's like, that's a trick question, I'm not answering that. Like, there's no good outcome from that question.
He's learning.
And this is when the monk sort of, you know, is revealed to have left, and they're looking into it. There's a few little interesting bits as well before this. One is that we've been calling Potomy. We heard it in this episode. You were pointing out it sounded different. Petonomy maybe is how you say it. But the creature, the doubt from the egg, the delusion from the egg, that seems to go in his ear. If it's actually a physical, well, not physical thing, but if it's actually a thing that's at play and it's not just a representation. It goes into his ear, and honestly, when I was remembering the episode later on, I just thought, oh, is that just the first sign of the teeth chatter infecting him, because he's the first one we see infected? But this actually happens way before he breaks out. This is early on, because we see him get up and he kind of just wakes up in the middle of one of the hallways, and he's bleeding from the ear, and then we see Basket Man's kind of watching on the security camera.
Yeah. I do wonder if the delusion is linked with the infomercial from this episode. You know, the way it spreads, and so someone has a delusion, they tell someone else, and they get obsessed with the delusion as well, and now it's spreading around the group.
No, I can see that. Because I think last time, or the first couple of times, it was all about the delusion itself and how it starts, whereas this one was more about how it spreads and becomes a mass thing.
Yeah, how it affects society.
Because very specifically the way it's phrased in this one in the infomercial is, you know, it spreads from one person to the next until the entire community is affected by it. Yeah. And in this case, the community is Division 3 and everything surrounding that. So, but the other thing that was, this is just a funny little sequence actually, is Carrie's like, hey Carrie, we have to go do this. She's like, no, stop punching the bag. I know that's what you like doing, but we have to go do this. I'm like, okay, well, what are they doing here? And it just cuts to them sitting in the cafeteria, and I was like, oh, I never really thought about this, but what he's doing is he's training her to eat because she's never had to, because she gets, as she points out, she gets all of her nutritional necessities through him. Like, she just gets it when she's inside him. And because of Switch, she's like, no, I should teach you how to do this stuff so you can be independent and we're not lacking. And he's like, showing her how to eat. And she doesn't really like the wasn't sushi, was it? It was something else. But
all I can think of is sushi in that room.
Yeah, but he was like, hey, you have to eat, and she doesn't really like it. She sort of wolfs it down, doesn't really appreciate it. But then discovers she likes the beverage, she likes the cream soda, which I'm appalled at because I think it's disgusting.
Oh, no, it's great.
Cream soda is disgusting. I love cream, I love soda. Put them together, I hate them. Right? Want no part of it.
So good.
I'm a fan of dairy, I'm a fan of sugar, but cream soda, not for me.
Oh, no, cream soda plus some ice cream. Yes.
I'm hurt by this. So, but I think that's funny that she's never even had a drink before. Like, or at least if she has, maybe it's been water or something. This is like the first time she's been like, oh, what's this? She's like, because she basically does the Thor, another.
Yeah, just downs it.
But then it cuts to the funny payoff to this, where she's like, "This is disgusting." It's like, it's very natural. The food goes in, it has to come out. She's never pooped before either. He's like, "Do you want me to come out and help?" So, "No, I've got it. It's fine. let me be."
Yeah.
So it's just the idea of an adult learning to do all this stuff is kind of amusing, because I think most people don't remember learning any of this. You just kind of, I mean, obviously you did at some point, but you don't remember it.
Yeah, it's one thing with the food and drink, because you can try new stuff at any age.
Oh sure, yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah,
it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, because well, I think it's because most of us, again, you don't remember this, but the first time you poop and pee, you just kind of do it. You don't you don't go to the bathroom and try and make it happen. You just kind of.
No, it's true.
The training is all about making sure you go and take care of it properly. The training's not about doing it. You're just going to do it.
Yeah.
You got to shit.
Doing it in the right place.
Yeah. It's litter training essentially.
It is.
To compare it to my cats over there. Although there's a cat in this episode, the cat's a big thematic point, so I'm not ridiculously out of touch with that reference. Anyway, so but David Gazette Tang, he speaks to Farouk. We have this big conversation. I particularly at the end of the conversation with Farouk, where he's like, "Hey, you all thought this was me. You thought I was the Typhoid Mary, but no. It's just the monk. He's the one spreading this. He's the source." And what I loved about this scene, obviously this show is very good at having little visual things happen. This one was a lot more simpler. I mean, it was simpler and it was just a camera movement. It was very in your face the way it was doing it though. But the camera in this scene, as he's learning this and he's discovering the idea, because the other thing that Rook brings up here is that, hey, technically this future version of Sid, which he's obviously getting from his head, because I don't imagine David's told him that much about it in terms of...
I don't think so, no.
Yeah. But he's like, hey, this future version of your girlfriend, she's essentially asking you to help her commit suicide because this timeline will cease to exist if you change things. Which is a very interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I wouldn't. Like, my response to that would immediately be, well, no, she doesn't want to commit suicide. She wants the world to be, and her life to be better as to what it is.
Yeah, because it's only suicide if if changing this causes the younger version of her to die. If she knows that. Like, if it's sure. Like, she'll die if we change this for whatever reason.
Yeah, that'd be a very specific set of circumstances where she'd know for sure that's what would happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... but the whole scene, though, when this is happening, once Farouk sitting on the deck chair, the camera is swiveling back and forth, sort of, kind of around him a little bit as well, but it keeps doing that very extremely, and it's happening to both him and David, and it's kind of like they're on a seesaw or something like that. It's very sort of back and forth, and it never stops moving. It was a very, very specific camera movement that I thought was worth pointing out. So he wakes up, and oh no, everyone's chattering except Carrie. He finds Carrie in the in the cafeteria, defending himself with spray bottles of water or cleaning fluid, whatever it was.
Yeah. Tastes lemony.
Yeah, he's like, scush, scush. Get away from me, you evil monk. Scush.
Yeah, I like how he thinks that'll do the trick.
There's a cow.
There is, just randomly. It just seems to appear, interestingly.
It gives me some odd Fringe flashbacks. If anyone who's watched Fringe, there was a cow. They had a pet cow in the lab. But, so they go around, and they find Ptolemy first, and it's like he's chattering, how do we, combat this? And he basically takes Carrie inside his head. And okay, it's a maze, as leaders, and Ptolemy's just kind of like sitting there. He's pruning his hedges, doing these things.
Yeah.
And David tries to talk to him, and he keeps just saying, "Oh, hello," and he just keeps repeating himself as it keeps happening. And what they basically figure out is that his ideal world, the one thing he wants to get away from because of his memory power, is the idea that he doesn't have to remember anything anymore. So that's why he's just on this weird loop where he doesn't remember anything. Because this is tranquility to him, because he always has to remember things, which is why when they actually do wake him up and he wakes up and do you not remember what happened, he kind of smiles. He says, "No, don't." Yeah. he's kind of into
new
it
for him, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's good. And it's they find the cow. They find Melanie. They go inside Melanie's head, and she's got a very different sort of thing going on in there.
She's got an old school game, like a
text adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, where she's like making them answer these questions, and they basically try to like get around it, and David tries to use his psychic powers, and there's all sorts of things, but ultimately he kind of wins by reiterating it back to her, kind of part of what she told him last episode about how she had all these dreams, or she didn't have these dreams, she shared all of his dreams, and she never really occurred to her that she maybe had dreams of her own, and he kind of like gives that back to her in a kind of sweet way, where she, he basically interprets that her dream is to be carefree. And it's actually a really sweet scene as he's typing it out, and the words are coming up one by one. It's
Yeah,
really
it does
nice.
a really unique, like a way of them coming up because it moves about. It's not just in one line. It kind of changes the way it goes, like in and out.
Yeah, it's very dreamlike. I almost feel like I don't know. I'm trying to think of the video game in my head that did this. It's very somber. I'm thinking something like the Stanley Parable or something like that, where
Right.
just had that kind of mood to it, the way it was happening. But again, they eventually get her up, they wake her up, and Melanie and Ptolemy go up to the basket man's place, and the monk's there. The monk, because we've seen the monk kind of wandering around, all kind of brooding and presencing. And presencing, as if that's a word. But the monk, he's in there. He's doing his Spider-Man. He's up in the corner, but he's connected into the Vermilion ladies,
Yeah.
and Basket Man's there as well. And what's weird is at first he starts talking, like the monk starts speaking through the Vermilion ladies, but then the Basket Man starts talking back also through the Vermilion ladies.
Yeah,
So we get this.
it's a really weird battle, isn't it?
Yeah, we get this back and forth through the robotic voices, and it's. I mean, to its credit, it's actually relatively easy to tell who's who as it's going. Yeah. It's never too confusing, but that's going on. And it's talk of like, no, we can't trust David. He's in fact, it's actually David walks in towards the end of the conversation and actually zaps them both away as he's about to say that he's helping the Shadow King. He's like, oh no, I don't want them knowing that. And he gets away.
Yeah.
But before he gets to that, they talk about, okay, where's the weapon? And he's like, oh, there is no weapon. There was going to be a weapon, but then there was other threats, so it kind of got forgotten about. And Melanie realizes that David is the weapon, that David is the thing that can maybe fight back. And let's talk about David's dangerous. This idea that David's the one who's going to cause the bad thing is really starting to feel right to me.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
again, but worth mentioning, unless that's the delusion that the show is double tricking me on.
that's the problem. You're second guessing everything, aren't you?
Yeah. I feel like assuming David's the one who's going to cause the problem is the second guess, and then I'm triple guessing it by thinking, oh, that's the delusion.
Yeah, you might be right.
Hmm.
Oh, God damn it, this show.
It's so damn dense. It really is. Like
There's so many layers.
I always come out feeling really. And you know, it's funny. I feel like the show the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure this was true in season 1 as well, is that sometimes the endings are very abrupt. I thought this one was probably one of the most abrupt ones because it really felt like it was just going to be the next part of the episode because we'd been, we'd been into like 2 heads already and brought them back out of this chattering kind of nonsense, but when he zaps the monk away. And Melanie believes, oh, David can fight him. David can, win, beat the Shadow King. He can kill the Shadow King. Yeah. But when they get up to the roof and it's just the monk and David, and the monk starts speaking. Actually, he's got this really cool, deep voice.
Does, doesn't he?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of trickery there with the voice. But he's like, no, you're going to cause all these problems. You're going to do this. Can't be trusted. Blah blah. He's like, I'm trying to stop the bad thing from happening now, but it's already happened. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? Like, where are we going with that? And of course, at the aforementioned green fingers pointing in the sky, mostly to David, and then later on there's like a sort of fork where he's standing there, like I said earlier on, where there's a hand pointing in each direction, and it's like, which way is he going to go? And that's when he finds Sid, after the monks committed suicide by jumping over the building. I actually thought that was a really beautiful shot, bizarrely, of him falling.
Yeah, it was, definitely.
Through the sky. There was something very tranquil about it, like peace before death, I guess. But then,
I guess the whole thing was, the monk accepted what he was doing.
Yeah, and maybe sees the dangers that are coming. Because we actually see, because obviously, before, because David's actually taken at one point, before we get to the scene where Melanie and Ptolemy come into the Basket Man lair, the monk takes David, he knocks, one of his minions that he's controlling knocks him out, and puts him in the chattering room, and David essentially sees inside the monk's head and sees kind of what happened. Like, after they had the body under the monastery, this was when they started, again, the idea of the physical manifestations, the delusions start to spread. And at first it was, one of them screaming, then it becomes the chattering. We see that a couple of the monks commit suicide. Because we'd heard that this monk was the last survivor, but we didn't really know what...
the surrounding circumstances.
Yeah. But it sounds like, no, they all just went this way, through the chattering, through this, through that. So he actually sees like kind of what happened there, again, this manifestation of this idea. So, and maybe the dangers of this happening again, and that's why he's so against the Shadow King is because he saw firsthand what happens. But then the question becomes, did the Shadow King actually do this? Because I think the obvious misdirect here is that this is really all the Shadow King. That the Shadow King is the one, is Sid from the future, is manipulating David, and everything's just completely
Right.
him pulling the strings. And it's almost the easy option, whereas is that disappointing? But I don't know if it is, because it's also the insanely...
That's the thing. I'll be fine if that is the thing, because it's like that's still just exciting in the implications in itself, but also it feels so easy that it could be that they could swerve away from it, and that's just exciting because then it's like, oh, okay, what have you got for me?
Yeah, because, like, what happened at the monastery, did that just happen because of their fear of the Shadow King? Was it actually the Shadow King
Right,
himself?
or was he kind of infecting them?
Yeah. It's hard to say, because ultimately, we know that he's in another body. We know that he's in David's, childhood body and stuff. Because that's the thing, he brings that up at one point to Farouk earlier on, and he's like, hey, it was life or death, I chose life. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily want to take over a kid, and live in his head, but, like, if that was how I
Gotta
was
do
going to
what you gotta
survive, yeah. But no, so all that stuff's really interesting, and of course at the end he sees Sid on the roof, he goes inside her head, it's snowy, there's an igloo in the background, he starts walking, cut to credits, so I'm like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be starting off next week. I mean, unless we jump ahead, which the show often does, we might.
No, it's true. It's worth noting, of course, other things like David's getting flashes of future Sid giving
Yeah,
him
throughout
letters.
the episode, each time he sees her draw one letter, and then we see her sinking into essentially quicksand, slowly, very quickly. And it's funny because actually through the course I was like H-U, I'm like hurt. Should I spell hurt? And there was like a second R. I'm like, no, hurry! It's going to be hurry. It's telling me to hurry. Unless it's hurricane, it could be hurricane. But I doubt it. That's really specific.
That is very specific.
Hurry makes more sense. And sure enough, it was hurry as she's sinking.
Yeah.
But again, it all feels like manipulation to me in some sense. Like, this is like, no, you have to do this. Someone edging him on. You have to keep going down this path.
It does, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
feels like it's too specific.
So, I think the key thing here is that I don't trust anything. This is basically the point. The show has convinced me not to trust a goddamn thing that comes from... I'll trust,
especially from David.
Yeah, David and Shadow King. I'll trust things that come from the other characters, typically.
To a degree.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm very weary of trusting anything else.
Yeah.
So don't know.
I also really like the monk goes all Pied Piper and controls the. Obviously, they have all the kid soldiers around because they're.
Isn't that the phrase they use as well? Someone actually says he's went Pied Piper.
Yeah, because when they first say it, I was like, oh, okay, he's Pied Piper. I was supposed to be like, okay, are these monks, obviously we know these like this ancient order, were they the inspiration for the Pied Piper? But then someone actually mentions it. I'm like, okay, maybe not then. I don't know. I mean, it could still be, but
yeah, just a little thing I like when they were in the cat again. She's like, is it easy being a cat? And she's like, well, there's certain temptations you have to resist. And she like passes a little tassel that's dangling from an outfit. It's like the cat's like, I'm going to go for it. It's like, no, focus, cat said, focus. So no,
bloody cats.
Which, and I like that's one of the things that this show does quite well. Is it's prodding at all these psychological elements. It's making us doubt ourselves. It's making us doubt the unreliability of what we're seeing from multiple characters. But it still has time for jokes. It still has times for, oh no, this pooping's disgusting, but it's funny. And it still has times for, oh, the cat's distracted by a tassel, or whatever. It's got time for all these little things.
Yeah, and it never feels out of tone either.
No. Which again, it makes sense that this comes from the guy that did Fargo, because Fargo also has that kind of thing where it's dealing with very serious things, but is often quite funny anyway.
Yes.
Without ever sacrificing.
Much funnier than this, I would say.
Yeah, probably that leans more into the comedy than this does, but it's still certainly there.
Yeah.
But it always does it without ever sacrificing the credibility of the drama. Much like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they can put in jokes, but it doesn't feel like it deflates the tension in a scene or anything like that. It works alongside with it.
No,
and that bouncing around from tones is quite ingenious, actually. And some people will try it and they'll fail miserably, but some people just know how to do it.
That's it. Sometimes it can just feel like a mess, like you're just jumping all over the place. Other times it doesn't even skip a beat, like this.
Yeah. So solid episode. Deeply curious where it's going. So let us know what you think of this one. in the comments below, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, over at patreon.com/mailedfuzztv. There's a link to that in the description. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?